Hi, everybody. This is day 937. 937 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss, the sister city of Juarez, Mexico. And he didn't just vanish, something happened. So we're trying to get to the bottom of it. I think we have gotten to the bottom of it. We just need law enforcement agencies and our institutions to do what they are supposed to do. What they are supposed to. But you see, the problem is everything has been politicized, and all our agencies, our institutions have been politicized, including our schools, including our military, including our justice system, including our law enforcement, especially the CIA, the FBI, and it has, of course, it's always been infiltrated. We've always known there's always infiltration. There is always corruption. There is always, an unperfect government. That's why it says, in order to establish a more perfect union. The reason why our preamble says that is because more perfect means mature, right? We have to mature. We have to grow in knowledge, grow in the right direction. And that's not what has happened. It has happened, uh, it went the other way. And our institutions are so corrupt that now we are going to, we've already have felt the consequences of an immature government, an immature agency, series of agencies, and uh, you know and in institutions. And what is the immaturity? Not taking responsibility. That is immaturity. um, I know I have to be careful with my words, or I need to express myself so that you will understand exactly what I mean. And that is, Richard is a missing soldier. He is a active duty uh, volunteer son of this country. And we have the politi- politicized um, DOD, Department of Defense, that is more concerned with grooming our soldiers into pornography, the creation of pornography, the selling of pornography, and the broadcasting of pornography. Some of you might think, no way, no way. Yes, way. I want to talk about Austin Hawke today. Before I do that, I want to talk about what we have. And let me see if I can share that. What we have. I want to show you a map. I want to show you places. And I'm trying to figure out a way. I'll make this better. Let's see if I can make this better, if I even have it on here. I think I shared it so much. But let's talk about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Let's talk about the establishment of Colonial Juarez, of I'm saying it right, Casiscande, Novo Casiscande. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, let us talk about colonial Dublin. Let's look at where they are at. Let's look at where they're at. Because they're right south of the border of New Mexico. Sunland Park, New Mexico is really part of the greater El Paso area. El Paso, Texas. Fort Bliss. Let's look at the map of a lead that we have. And I wish I would have done this before I got on here. Here, let me do it in an easier way through my phone because I have it saved. And yep, here I have it. There. I should have done that right to begin with. Go all the way down. Okay, let's put this on. Okay, so this is very interesting here. And if you go to Telegram, then you can expand this. If I expand this, it messes up a little bit. Let me see if I can expand it out as much as possible. Okay. I'm going to mess with it too much and it'll... Okay, so here is here's El Paso, right? Right here in this spot, if you can see my cursor moving right there. It is, and I can turn this off. Right there. It's really, matter of fact, let me see if I can do this even better. I think I can do this even better if I just do one at a time. Yep. Perfect. Okay, so here's this map. I hope you can see it a little bit better. The other ones you'll really be able to see better. This is a map of El Paso, Fort Bliss, New Mexico. Sunland Park is right here. And this right here is the Santa Teresa port of entry. And we were told that Richard was taken over this port of entry, down this road, and over towards Juarez. But before he was there, along this road is where his body was dumped. Okay, and this is a picture. This is where he was dumped. He was murdered and dumped. That's what they say. This report that was reported to the FBI. And we searched this area. We did an after action report. The Mexican military, the Mexican government did tell my husband through a text message that they would search that area. And then the CID called us and said, oh, that was a hack job. How did he even know that the CID, that the Mexican military or government were going to search that area? Anyway, they squashed that. Okay? They squashed that. That's another illustration of, I think, the obstruction of justice, a crime, absolutely a crime done by the CID. I really do. Because there should have been a collaboration and assistance here. We assist other people. We're assisting so many other countries right now. Why can't the Mexican government, the contact that we had that my husband was talking to, assist us in checking this area out? And this happened in March, okay, the search, because we got the lead in February. Now, October is when the father-in-law said, came into the Dollar General and reported that he was with the FBI, and the FBI had found Richard's remains. Okay, so um, we didn't find anything, but we found things. Um, and there were people that had witnessed things, and those witnesses were not allowed to talk. Okay, they weren't allowed. The you would think that they would really want to know what happened. Well, on further research, there, as time went by, this witness kept giving information, especially about a picture, and that picture was the Farnsworth Racing. Um, and I have that on there. I cleaned it up. This is what it looks like. Um, Pretty much like that. And that was interesting because then we were asking, well, who's Farnsworth? If this truck that is a blue Dodge, about 2005, we know it's a 2005, um, with shaved handles and a lowrider, particular mags. It was totally customized. Why why can't they investigate that? Because this truck was in front of a ranch called Farnsworth Racing with this sign, Farnsworth Racing. And do the Farnsworth race at Sunland Park? Absolutely. What about the one north of that in New Mexico? Absolutely. Um, so this is a big horse training area, big horse breeding area. Um, and horses are involved, like with Danae, like with William Molinar. Horses are involved, and also the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is a connection. And Farnsworth is a big name with the uh, Mormons, because one of the families that founded um, Colonial Juarez, commemorating 125 years of Mormon colonies in Mexico. This is it. This is one of them. I have lots of pictures. You can go look. But it is lush. It is plush. It is, it's a really nice area. And they have lots of orchards and farms and ranches. And of course, horse breeding and um, whatnot and whatnot. They're very into horses. You know that with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's wife is always, into horses. Mitt Romney's father was born right here in this beautiful, beautiful land. But that's south of the border. Okay? That is not the USA. That's Mexico. And that is just south of Sunland Park, New Mexico, El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss, Fort Bliss. And just south of this area here. Now, why are so many of the people involved in this case, Mormons. I don't know. And I'm talking about the ones that are up to no good, that are not in this case in a good way. Okay? I have nothing against LDS. I'm saying the truth here. The truth is that horses with the LDS, with the Mormons, are involved in this case and not in a good way. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying it's very interesting that a child shelter and an orphanage, I believe one of them is an orphanage, one of them is a child shelter, is right near where Richard was supposed to be dumped. His remains were supposed to be dumped. And it's also near horse stables. Right over the border. And why isn't that being investigated? And there's some other things. You know, I don't know who this young woman, this young mother, she was pregnant during this time. And she has a baby. Who is the father of this baby? Why is that a secret? You know, if she's the one that spoke with Richard or texted Richard 6 times, that's the number that we got, 6 times, contacted Richard the day that he went missing, you know, she has information. And I don't know why it's a secret who the father is of one of her children. I don't know why they haven't been forthright in letting us know what is going on in this case. When we have the VIN number, we've given it to them, of the blue truck. It's interesting. When we have these leads, and you can see why there is such a I can't even say it, why they've made everything political and why this is a problem. If all of our institutions are now politicized, thank you, if they've been politicized, you can see why in this case, when you're talking about Romney's, Farnsworth, the traveling back and forth to the certain areas, ranches, and loads of money, and very plush, and big business, and big business is mixed up with our Department of Defense. Then we have this here. Okay, so this is Colonial Juarez and Nove Casagrande. This right here is called Plaza China. Yeah. So then we have that in it. So we have a Chinese plaza there in Colonial, in Nove Casagrande, which is right between, it's right in the middle of everything. Right beside Colonial Juarez. You have to look at the map. You can go to Google Earth and look at that. This is all curious. And we're talking about a U.S. Army soldier That's missing. And they just want to put everything in cold case and say, oh, there's nothing there. And there is. There's something there. There's something there that's so big that I have to make a hat like this. Right? Can you read it? Mm-hmm. Because everything is so politicized. Turn this down one. Yeah. Let me see if I wanted to. I know before I talk about Austin Hawk, I know we need to offer prayers to these families, no survivors, and outside of Huntsville, Alabama, a helicopter went down. It's a Black Hawk, a very heavy helicopter. That's why there's no survivors. Um, I'm very sorry for the family. Um, yeah, that's what was sent to me. Also, something's going on in the National Guard. Um, they are ordering suspended unvax. Well, I would call them Cobra strikes. You didn't want to get your Cobra strike, then you need to go to back to duty and no back pay. I think it's crazy, absolutely crazy when there's not a mandate. You know, there's supposed to be not a mandate, but it goes back to those shadow policies that they have. They have these shadow policies. Um, this is something too that I put up that has everything to do uh, with Richard's case also, because the reason why a lot of our agencies, I believe, and and our institutions get politicized is because of trying to avoid taxes. So this whole IRS, the whole Federal Reserve, there doesn't need to be an IRS without a Federal Reserve. If there's no Federal Reserve Bank, we don't need an IRS, and so the two go together. Um, but everyone's always trying to live life so that they don't have to pay taxes and do their business so they don't have to pay their taxes. And what it does is it creates a lot of problems. It creates a black market, a lot of crime underneath the table so that people don't have to report and pay their taxes. Um, if there's no trail, right, no paper trail, then they don't have to pay their taxes. So it also is a weapon. And when you give an agency the power to tax, they have the power to destroy. And that's not me. That's Supreme Court Justice Marshall. He ruled that way, that the power to tax involves the power to destroy. Um, and we saw that in World War One and World War Two. They taxed the very rich into bankruptcy. And that's why all those big estates in England, I think that's a good example. Uh, they're like museums now because they were taxed to destruction. So, and it lost a lot of employment, because of envy and I don't know, um, yeah, uh, greed, coveting. So, yeah, what was this one about? Oh yeah, all the down. Okay, so this one was really good. I wanted to play it.
this for a second. Mark Milley used to work for me when I was chief of staff at DOD. Look, let me just unpack this for a second. Mark Milley used to work for me when I was chief of staff at DOD, and I served with him when he was a military officer that we needed and that acted on intelligence and the best interest of America at heart. I was in the Situation Room when we did the Baghdadi raid, and on that evening, with myself and President Trump and others assembled there, Mark Milley did his job, which was protect America. The politics be damned. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I know he's capable of doing it. But when you look at the speech he just gave, you now see that Mark Milley is what I call the kraken of the swamp. He makes Nancy Pelosi look like a goldfish when it comes to political swamp monsters, because all he cares about is the next headline to make himself look good. Remember, this is the same guy that apologized for walking across Washington, D.C.'s Lafayette Park with President Trump with a sidearm because the media was in an uproar. It was the right image to subdue the fires that were going around the country. This guy, Mark Milley, has failed in terms of advising the President of the United States on intel-based reporting to defend this country. Instead, he's going to politicize-based reporting to say false things like the Ukraine is winning and Russia is losing. And oh, by the way, no one's talking about the fact that how did Mark Milley and his entire operation, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, underestimate the amount of ammunition and money the Russians had to fight this war?
I want to.
And
okay.
Fail.
Yeah. That was an amazing, because we absolutely, from the very beginning, people would say to us when I would ask questions, when we would talk about, COVID and all the nonsense going on, they would say, well, but what does that have to do with Richard Halliday? What does that have to do with your son? And I'm like, because all they are worried about is the politics. They're not interested in doing what's right, because the DOD was in charge of that whole thing, crimes against humanity. And it was very clear, if you were in the medical field like my husband, um, if you had a past in the medical field, if you were working in the medical field, and you were interested in science and you were interested in true science, and you wanted to hear the roundtable discussion on treatments, on what was causing this illness, all of that, you saw the censorship, you saw the injustice, you saw the lies, you saw the numbers, and the numbers put our military at zero risk. Absolutely zero risk. Yet, they were absolutely, the generals, they were absolutely insane. Insane. And when you are a military and your job is to defend the Constitution, you don't go and hide under a rock. You do not scare the hell out of your service members. You rally them. You don't let them have frat parties every day and feed them all kinds of porn. You don't groom them to participate in the porn. Look the other way with all these porn cults at the best. But I'm thinking it's much more devious. I'm thinking they're institutionalizing, normalizing porn cults and grooming our volunteer sons and daughters to participate, at least, think it's normal to live in a culture that is just surrounded with sex fanatics and porn cults, and want to produce films, want to produce reels, wants to produce books, uh, picture books, filthy picture books, and promote their style of sexual flavor. And then they produce it, then they sell it. They get our groom our service members into selling it too, and that all supports child sex trafficking, every bit of it. And it gets worse and worse. And then they broadcast it. They broadcast it on these servers, and that's politics, y'all. That is politics. What in the world is going on in our politics? Are they child sex traffickers? And I'm sure people will say, well, what does that have to do with Richard? And I'll say, because he was trying to expose many for child sex trafficking. That is really, I can say that, in my opinion, that's exactly what he was trying to do. All the evidence really proves that that's what he was trying to do. And he, of course, had this porn. And, you know, the porn is everywhere. It's being broadcasted over these servers called My Old Tax Documents, because the power to tax involves the power to destroy. Right? Isn't that funny? Um, so they broadcast through these servers, and that airdrops to the phones. Everybody has these phones. Richard got a hold of, well, it was dropped to him, I'm sure. It was going around. There's frat parties every day. They're bringing in the girls during the COVID lockdown, but they locked them down. You understand? And what was happening during the lockdown? I wonder what China was doing during the lockdown. When our soldiers, when our service members were locked down, how many balloons were they flying over us? Huh? Because the balloons have been going on for a long time. How much data did they collect? What were they doing? Sneaky Pete. Right? What was and it seems that the 44 four-star generals, well, it doesn't seem like it, they are. The 44 four-star general officers, that includes admirals, very clearly are servicing foreign and domestic enemies. What, in favor of China, with China, for China? What's going on? Because don't tell me they didn't see that balloon, know about the balloon, I call them satelloons, because absolutely there is magnitude, there's piles and piles, mountains of evidence that satelloons have been going on for a long time, decades. And of course they spy. Of course they're collecting data. Everything is about collecting data and spying on us. We barely have any privacy anymore. And, this on the news, I'm saying, well, they're taking information from our military bases. Of course they are. But, that was allowed to happen. And, so Millie has, started out where he could do his duty. And this is what Kash Patel's saying. But somewhere in there, he turned into Darth Vader, or he turned into, uh, who knows? Who knows? We know he's the highest type of criminal, treason, traitor, betrayer, working for foreign and domestic enemies. We know that. So is General McConville. He's a worst type of traitor, worst type of criminal. And and that goes to what I want to talk about with Austin Hawke. Let's see. Oh, they're talking about the economy. Of course, China ramps up surveillance security threat with new satellite support from Antarctica. Oh, wow. Okay, that'll be a whole nother subject. That's been going on. I don't know how many videos I found on launching balloons from Antarctica. Okay. And of course they're going to do it from Antarctica. um, just take a look at the map behind me, the Gleason's map. Of course they're going to do it from Antarctica, um, because there's a treaty. We're not allowed to go below the 60th parallel south. Um, so they've already, that treaty is like over 50 years old. It's never been broken. Everybody signed it. Can you believe it? What's across the 60th parallel that they don't want us to see, that they don't want us to explore? They want to explore Mars. Why can't we explore Antarctica? Why can't we have that kind of exploration? They're going over there and launching balloons, satelloons, or satellites. Is that what they don't want us to see? Because we know, because NASA told us, and we know because there's no ships going back and forth to the moon and back like they promised in the 60s, that there would be a hotel on the moon and we'd go back and forth and have a good old time. We don't have that. We don't even have the capability to go to the moon, NASA tells us. They lost it. They lost it. The greatest achievement that they said man ever made, and they lost it, the technology. They're working on it. They're working on it. You would think they're not going to be in a rush, because they make $55 to $58 million a day on taxpayers. They're not going to be in a rush. That's a sweet deal. That's lucrative. Yeah. And what does that have to do with Richard? Well, when everything is so corrupt, when everything is so politicized, when everything is has a certain agenda or is working for a foreign and domestic enemy, for foreign ideology. I even was questioned about that, a foreign ideology. What's a foreign ideology? Foreign ideology means that they're not defending the Constitution, that they're not training our soldiers to have esprit de corps, that they're not training our I should say service members in the Medal of Honor ethos, that they are scared, they are shaking, they are being retaliated against. Our service members have been hijacked and they have been tortured, mentally tortured. They've been tortured with threats of all of these Article 15s, all the tools that we've entrusted to our military leaders, they've turned into weapons against our service members. And they've turned the barracks into a marketplace for illegal drugs. So they are poisoning our service members. They don't care about their health. The water is dirty. Look at what they're doing in Ohio. Look how slow. Where is the EPA? Where's all the people screaming for the animals and for the trees and for the people there and everything in Ohio? Where is the media? People are being poisoned. Our service members are being poisoned. They absolutely are being poisoned. And you know what the Bible calls a poisoner? A witch. Do not suffer a witch to live. What does that mean? We need to look at the death penalty, crimes against humanity, extortion, dereliction of duty, obstructing justice, treason. I mean, these crimes are so egregious. And we're, how long, Lord, before you wake people up? That's my prayer. How many Vanessa Guillans have to happen? How many Enrique Roman Martinez's have to happen? How many Richard Hallidays have to happen? And how many Austin Hawks have to happen? And then, of course, I was even looking into Caleb Smither a little bit too, because he was left to the fifth stage of decomposition. Bugs. You're in the barracks room. You have a soldier there decomposing to the fifth stage of decomposition. And there is no accountability for that. There's no one. And I think that it is 44 four-star generals and admirals that need to be held accountable for the death of Caleb Smither, for the death of Enrique Roman Martinez, for the brutal death of Vanessa Guillen, brutal death of Enrique Roman Martinez, brutal death, slaughter of Austin Hawk, and I believe the murder of Richard Halliday. Not only the murder of Richard Halliday, but the covering up with all the information that we have, the absolutely politicizing of Richard Halliday's case to put it in a cold case when it is so hot. There's so much to find out very easily. I mean, we have the name, we have the GPS coordinates. We've traced burner phones. We have the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM saying that he's with the FBI and the FBI has found the remains of Richard's body. In Juarez, Mexico. We have the blue truck, Farnsworth Racing. What that did is, I don't know if Farnsworth Racing Ranch is involved in this, okay? That's something that the law enforcement agencies need to check out. But what it did do was highlight that there is an LDS connection. And so then when you go look at all the people, what? There is a huge amount of them that are attached to the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Mormons. Huge. Shocking. Shocking if I told you everything. And the law enforcement agencies need to get on to that. But they put everyone in cold case. They close out Caleb Smithers' case. They put in a cold case Enrique. They plea deal with Austin Hawk. And they put Richard in a cold case. And these are our volunteer sons and daughters. And this is how they get treated. And I was talking to Julie, and she's sharing with me. She shared today with me her comments during the sentencing of Byron Booker, the murderer of her son, Austin Hawk. And as soon as she said that I could share that with you. Yeah, I think that's it. Um, as soon as I get it, I will. The the very important thing that you need to know with Hawk's case is that Austin Hawk was the Distinguished Honor Graduate for his cycle in basic training and AIT. Okay? He took being a soldier seriously. He's a good guy. He wanted to aspire. He wanted to live. He had plans already for after the military. He was already making all kinds of arrangements. But in the military, in the barracks, you have a marketplace for illegal drugs. It's not just smoking pot. That's so insulting when the media writes that kind of stuff. It's so insulting. It's like, well, Richard got caught with underage drinking. Are you kidding me? 0.04 BAC. That is what you're saying that will smear his character so bad that he deserves to be murdered and dumped in Juarez, Mexico? Huh? And that is what the uh, general officers can use to motivate a senior leader to go to the military police right there on Fort Bliss and smear Richard from the military police guard mount to our military police. And the military police have been so hypnotized by the grooming that they have received, that they don't have any Leave No Soldier Left Behind. They don't have Army Strong. They don't have a Medal of Honor ethos. They have no esprit de corps. All they have is anger. All they have is anger. I'm not joking. Disgust and anger. Disgust, anger, and fear. Fear of retaliation. Disgust of what they're having to serve. And anger that they have no recourse. That is what I saw in Anthony Swafford. That is what I saw. Now, he can correct me. That is what I saw in John Turgeson. That is what I saw in the many, and also the paralegal. He was shaken. I believe that's what I saw in Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz. That's why he was shaking so bad. He's a Command Sergeant Major and he's angry. He was angry with my dad because my dad said this is a failure of the NCOs at the very beginning. This is before we even knew about the Child Protective Service complaints that Richard made, about the porn videos that he turned in, about the young mother. This is before we found out that the witness was really a liar, was nowhere near Richard. I wonder if that witness is LDS. And my dad said, "You're bringing in girls during COVID. The barracks are flush with weapons. This is an NCO problem. There's no one wants to talk. There's no esprit de corps. There's no esprit de corps. There's no I got your six. My battle buddy, I got to take care of him. Leave no soldier behind. This is an NCO problem. That's what he said. This is an NCO problem. And Command Sergeant Major was angry. He was angry. He was nice about it, but you could, you read his face. He was direct. He was angry. No recourse in the mess that he has to deal with, and he had to deal with Major General Clem Coward. What kind of stuff did he clean up for him? How deep and how wide is his involvement in this case? I'd like to know. Because he's the commanding officer of Leilani Hart, of Dallas Hart, of Richard Halliday. What's going on? And he smoked Richard. So what does this have to do with finding Richard? I'm telling you, they're covering up. They're covering up for dereliction of duty. They're covering up for all the crimes, all the failed programs, the rapes and the drug sales, and really worse than the drug sales. And I mean it. I mean, you can talk fentanyl all you want, and it did kill Asia Graham. But you know what killed Asia Graham? She was raped, and they told her to shut up. And she would never have had to take that medication that was laced with fentanyl and die if she hadn't been raped. If there was esprit de corps in the Medal of Honor ethos with 44 four-star generals and admirals that get everything from us. Everything. I'm talking about nice housing, vehicles, helicopters, planes, drivers, secretaries, big staffs that take care of everything they need. We give them everything. During World War II, with over 13 million service members, there were seven four-star billets. We have 44 now with only 1,300,000 service members, if that. We're very bloated, very top heavy. We give them everything, and guess what we got right now? We got mentally tortured service members. We've gotten service members that have been poisoned. We have service members that have been retaliated against. We have service members that have not been trained in the Medal of Honor ethos. No, they get groomed into these porn cults, these dogs that like to rear puppies. And it is in the most vile, vulgar manner that I say that. And they do it in our uniform, with our American flag sewed onto that uniform. They do it in the most vile, vulgar manner, with the intention of coercing and grooming our volunteer sons and daughters. In our buildings, on our installation, on our dime. And they do it in hostile zones. They do it in our vehicles, gymnasiums, our stuff with the American flag. And 44 four-star generals know about it. And admirals really know about it. I've got a testimony of a Marine, 1 female to 400 males, You either get raped or you keep a body count. Whose bright idea was it to abuse our daughters of this country? Make co-ed barracks where the rape is much easier. And then you get told to shut up. Keep a body count. Keep a body count. So with Austin, he's in that same environment because this is a systemic problem of the politicized Department of Defense that has turned into a weapon against our own because they're serving foreign and domestic enemies. So this whole weaponization of our government against our own, what are they going to do? They've already called me a domestic terrorist because I'm a Christian, not just any Christian, but because I am a holy Catholic apostolic Christian that believes in liturgy, believes in the law of God. That's why I think that we need a discussion on the death penalty. What does God say about the death penalty? What does God say about grooming our children, child sex trafficking into these dog porn cults to produce them, to sell them, to broadcast them? What does he say? What does God say about treason? What does God say about these bloated militaries? We have 44 four-star billets, and we have a disgrace of a military. It's an embarrassment. And we need a military. We need a national defense. We need a Department of Defense. What does God say about that? How should that work? Because we need a country defended. And it's not. It's been turned into a weapon against us. There should be in no way fentanyl flowing across that border if we had a defense. They're supposed to defend the land and the people. There should be in no way all of this leakage. I don't even count the Satelloon as the big problem. There's been classified information, technologies absolutely sold to enemies. We should never be $32 trillion in debt and have the infrastructure problem that we have. If we had a DOD, a DOD that was doing their duty. But they're not. They've used our money to contract out with the likes of CVS and Walgreens to poison the people. We know that now. Didn't do any good. It did way more harm than good. And it wasn't needed. Unless you were, it wasn't even needed, y'all. It wasn't even needed. Look at the numbers. And then look at what purification FOIAs were answered. 0. And what does this have to do with Austin? Because he was a whistleblower. He saw it. There was 4 of them, 4 whistleblowers. And what does the DOD do? What does the media do? They like to, gently, he was He was brutally slaughtered. 39 wounds to his head, his throat cut. He fought like hell, blood everywhere, the doors taken off the hinges, and and not one battle buddy called 911 or came to his rescue, not even after Byron Booker left the room with his bloody footprints everywhere. Did he did anybody enter the room or call 911 to help him? He just bled out on that floor. Like Caleb Smither rotted on the floor. And everyone in that barracks, and from what I know, they would never have said one word. It was a friend of Austin that came to that door. And it was bad. And part of Julie's a mother, part of her testimony or her statement at the sentencing of Byron Booker was he was so unrecognizable because of so many wounds that he suffered just in the head. And they tried to piece him together. And he was looking at her to say, "Look what they did to me, Mom. Look what they did to me." And the Army plea dealed, kicking every service member right in the teeth, right in the gut. And we'll be talking more about, well, you'll hear Julie's words. Sorry, let me get a drink. You'll hear Julie's words as soon as she sends me her statement. And I'm just heartbroken for her. She's so classy. She was so classy. So she didn't lower herself. And yeah, that's hard because he was right there. The person who, people might not know this, but Austin Hawke is a twin. And yeah, I'll read the statement to you so I can get it right. But how long are we going to put up with this? I mean, look I have to wear a hat that says, "Is the FBI hiding the remains of my son because the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM says so, and that's my son's command." And a young mother that she's so young, but she's pregnant. Why isn't that important? There is so much to this. From the whole secrets hid from us. Oh, it's so bad over in Juarez. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad in Mexico. But it's lush. It's lush. Are there bad areas? Yeah. But it's lush. I mean, they have like a middle school, high school, boarding school. Would you send your child to the boarding school if it's like right in the middle of cartel and it's not safe? And you have beautiful orchards and farms with all kinds of produce and ranches and horse training and horse breeding and I mean, all kinds of stuff. And a temple. And then Mitt Romney's, you know, has uh, a China Plaza China, right there. Why doesn't he have a Plaza USA? Why isn't there, with the Farnsworth and the Romneys in Mexico, a Plaza USA? No, it's a Plaza China. I'm just asking. I'm just curious. Where are the loyalties here? Who is the DOD serving? Who are they protecting? Why do they want that border open? Who are they trafficking? What are they doing? And why can't we get our Child Protective Service FOIAs answered that Richard put in there? Why can't we get those FOIAs from the Child Protective Services, from the IG? Because we know one led to the other. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. Quote, quote. Why are all these LGBTQ harassing our family with vile and vulgar messages through this? Not anymore so much. Because, see, it's all kind of come together. We have it all. We have enough to give to any law enforcement agency and put this all together. And it's huge. It's really huge. And, I didn't want it to be huge. I just wanted to find my son. I didn't realize it was so huge. I just want to know what happened to Richard. Where's Richard? Because, y'all, we have a close family. And Richard doesn't really even know the United States. And he goes there. He wants to try hard. I've always told him, be a blessing, Richard. And he tried to be a blessing. He tried to warn those service members to don't spend your money on whores and blow. Don't do it. Because it's a con job. It's extortion. They give them these $25,000, $50,000 advance pay. And then they know how to twist it out of them. And then they're grooming them. They're grooming them into these porn cults. They're grooming them into depression and PTSD. They're grooming them into illegal drug parties with these frat parties. What's that? That is an NCO problem. And why are our soldiers angry? Why are they angry when it comes to a mother looking for her missing soldier son? Why are they scared and shaking? Shaky Jake. Command Sergeant Major Shaky Jake. We have a Command Sergeant Major with a nickname Shaky Jake? That's not good. That's not good. Nothing out of this is good. You got memes with these 44 four-star generals, the Joint Chiefs of Staff with the admirals, wearing dog masks, being, like they're part of this porn cult because they are. Because they're letting it happen. They're turning the other way or participating in it or making money off of it, whatever. Because the colonel that showed his erection more than one time in groups and by himself and all of that in this porn cult, he was bold. He was bold. He was not afraid of any retaliation for his doggy porn cult that reared puppies. That's a national security threat, and he wasn't even afraid of any retaliation. But if you want to do what's right and good and noble and true, if you want to protect a young mother from being groomed into the sex cult, then if you want to stop, like Austin Hawk, the barracks from becoming a marketplace for illegal drugs, if you're like Vanessa and you want to stop the army from thinking that they can sexually harass and rape our daughters that volunteer into the service. And who knows what Enrique was trying to fight, because they put him in cold case. We can't even know. Then you end up with 39 stabs to the head. You end up being hammered to death in your face, cut up and put into a trunk, and then burnt, and then put into a foxhole and covered up with lime, and you end up rotting to death. You end up dumped in Juarez. These are whistleblowers. For sure, Austin. For sure, Richard. For sure, Vanessa. And you've got the wife of Richard's first sergeant, angry, scared. They have been put through so much torture. And who did it to them? Those 44 four-star generals and admirals that are wearing our beautiful uniforms with 4 stars. They are the biggest criminals. They are the biggest criminals. Treason, crimes against humanity, absolute poisoning of our service members. That's why we need to put the death penalty back on the table and discuss it. These are the worst type of crimes. Okay, everyone. I didn't. Let's go to look at see if you have any questions. And this alien thing, this balloon, Satelloon thing, and now the trains, the poisoning, the slow response to that, the lack of response to that, and just think about what they did with this COVID stuff. Oh, they are just so evil. They are so evil. And when Austin was brutally killed, murdered, it's not just him. It's all the family, all the service members around that. That's part of the torturing is, the fear of even trying to make a 911 call. They were so afraid they couldn't even make a 911 call. They're so afraid. That was our military. Are put in perpetual fear. Now that doesn't win wars. That doesn't defend a country. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. And, just continue to share. We're doing pretty well on TikTok, um, considering that we're so shadow banned and everything. I see here that we are, let me see if I can get it. Oh, we're at 3,000. We're at 3,000 followers. Wow, that's amazing. So we're at 3,000 followers, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. People talk bad about TikTok, but it seems to be uh, our resource, our recourse to get the message out about Richard, because we're at the point. Um, well, I will talk a little bit about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz announced that he is going to run for senator again. Ted Cruz barely won his Senate seat. Um, we'll see. We are planning on writing him a letter because he's not answering our emails. Um, so we're going to write him a letter, and we'll see if he can help us, because we need somebody in authority, someone in law enforcement, to someone like he. The one thing about Senator Cruz and his staff is they're pretty good. Now, I don't know if he's evil or not. I don't know if he's a demon. Someone sent me some kind of thing that he's a Satanist or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Um, I do know that that letter that his staff wrote out was really, really, really good. Really good. And it helped us tremendously. Helped me put a lot of pieces together, uh, and to understand where my husband was coming from, too, in all of this, from the military point of view, from not so much of an emotional point of view, but from a law point of view. And so, oops, just getting hot. So, oh no, I have hot hair. Um, but Senator Cruz definitely, definitely helped. And he's not going to run for president. I can tell you this Nikki Haley thing. Um, I'm in South Carolina. I don't know anyone in South Carolina that is happy with the job she did here. They felt like, no, if she can improve South Carolina, then she's up to no good. She's up to no good and doesn't deserve that kind of that kind of trust. So we'll see, because we have just about everything, and we just need someone like Ted Cruz to help us. You know, because he's legal. We can get the FOIAs. If we can get the FOIAs, we can even subpoena the FOIAs. Um, yeah, we need that help. And that would answer so many questions. And he also is a senator, so he could go over to Mitt Romney and say, hey, what's going on with your family on that border? Do any of them know about Richard Halliday? About child sex trafficking? What have you had to deal with? That would be helpful. That would be very helpful. All right, y'all. But I think they know. See, that's the thing. I think they know. They already know everything. But we'll see. Um, Thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye. Oh, if you know anything, call 941-677-0060. There's a $150,000 reward for information leading to finding Richard. 150,000. I think people could use that right now, even with the inflation.